All right, Paul, I want to start with you. A lot of people questioning whether or not they made the right decision not putting Trump on the stand. What do you think, Paul? You think he should have testified?
Oh, no, it would have been a complete disaster. He probably would have been led away in handcuffs if he testified. And the one thing to remember, Trump is saying, his attorneys prevented him from testifying. There's a rule in criminal law. The one decision in a criminal case that's absolutely reserved to the defendant himself is whether or not to testify. And every criminal lawyer sits down. He may give him some recommendations, but ultimately, any defendant who wants to testify can testify. And as a matter of fact, in this case, the judge looked down at Trump and said to him, "You have the right to testify." And that was because, remember, Trump went out and gave a press conference saying that the gag order was preventing him from testifying. The judge said, no, the gag order has nothing to do with your right to testify. So that's a misrepresentation and simply untrue. So I don't think it would have made a difference. He would have been convicted anyway.
Well, today, Trump said that he wanted to testify, but that it was his lawyers who advised him that it was a bad idea and that he shouldn't have done it. What do you think, Mark? Would that have been your advice?
Well, look, I often invoke my father, and my father used to say it's a rare criminal case that gets better for the defense after the prosecution rests. His best appellate issue, in my humble opinion, is right as this case was going on, in a 4-3 decision, the highest court in New York State reversed Harvey Weinstein. One of the bases for the reversal of that conviction was that the trial judge, who's no longer on the bench in New York, had in that case said to Harvey Weinstein, at the prosecution's behest, if you take the stand, I'm going to let in all kinds of other stuff. This judge, in this case, did the exact same thing. So his lawyer, Todd Blanche, made the right decision. He said, and Trump articulated it exactly right, if he had taken the stand and just been able to testify as to this discrete charge or 34 charges that he was charged with, he would have taken the stand. No lawyer was going to let him get up there and have him cross-examined on every other piece of extraneous evidence that had nothing to do with this case, but basically was the character assassination block. My opinion, if this case gets reversed, that's going to be one of the things that they hang their hat on, because there's now precedent in New York State, and it'll lead the appeal.
Interesting you bring up the appeal, Mark. We were looking up the stats earlier. In New York, 4.5% chance of a criminal conviction being overturned. So the chances aren't good overall. Paul, what do you think, though? I mean, because they keep talking about the appeal, and that's going to be the saving grace here. Is there something different about this case that will increase the chances?
There are a lot of things that are different about this case that increases his chance to get this reversed on appeal. And I agree completely with Mark about the Weinstein example of something that will be helpful to the Trump appeal. But there are many other things. For instance, to make this felony charge, they had to link a misdemeanor falsification of business records, to another crime. One of the crimes they linked it to was a federal election law crime. That's never been done in the history of New York. Why? Because the citizens of New York didn't pass that law. That was passed by the federal government and Congress. And so to link that to a New York law, very, very unusual. Also, there's a provision of the Constitution of the state of New York, which says that when you try to incorporate another law into an existing law, you have to include the entire content of that law in the new law as it's published in New York. That was not done with any of these laws that he's linked to, because remember, this became a felony by linking it to the federal election law, but the judge said you could also look at the state tax law, the state of New York's election law, and you could look also at federal tax law. So all of these things were thrown at the jury as possible links that turned a misdemeanor, a very minor crime, into a very serious felony. So all of those things will be on the table when an appellate court looks at it. There's a lot that can be offered here by the Trump forces to get a reversal in this case.
Hey, thank you for watching. Please go to newsnationnow.com, newsnationnow.com, and you can find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button down below. Then you will get more of NewsNation's fact-driven coverage.